Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. I'm Adam Simmons, and this is another episode of Industry Limelight. And I'm here with Albedo's AJ Lassiter, and he is the co-founder and CTO. AJ, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and we'll just get into what your company does.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Like you said, I'm AJ, CTO and co-founder here at Albedo, and Albedo designs and operates low orbit satellites that capture both visible and thermal imagery at a resolution 9 times better in the visible spectrum and 1,000 times better in thermal than what's commercially available today.
That is amazing. So let's talk about this for a second. Do you have satellites up in the air right now?
No, we don't. So we're currently early in our architecture phase, working with down selecting a few of our suppliers. And we're planning on launching Q3 2023.
Awesome. So what are the plans moving forward with that resolution of imagery? So are these hybrid platforms in terms of both being able to shoot visible imagery and thermal, at the same time? Or are they, on request, either one, or do you just shoot both spectrums simultaneously? How does that work?
Yeah, so we'll be working with our customers, depending on their specific tasks and their areas of interest that they're interested in collecting over to determine whether they're interested in collecting near simultaneous visible and thermal imagery, or just purely visible or purely thermal. So looking to make it pretty dependent for our customers' use cases.
Now, I have to ask, just because some companies that are attempting to go into thermal are trying to apply an interesting use case where they are perhaps going to do the nighttime approach too. Is that something you're interested in doing, or are you strictly sticking to daylight hours for collection?
Yeah, so we would certainly be capable of collecting during nighttime, but we are working with the U.S. regulators to determine, any limitations, since we are collecting 1,000 times better thermal imagery. Sometimes nighttime collection isn't necessarily allowed for those thermal cases. So we're working with the regulators to determine what's going to be best for them and for our customers.
Awesome. Now your platform isn't just about the imagery collection, is how you deliver, distribute, and allow your customers to order imagery that is unique with what you're providing, correct? Can you go further into that?
Yeah, so here at Albedo, we're really trying to be driven by our customers. And one thing that we've been hearing resoundingly through all our customer interviews is that the ordering and delivery process right now, as it stands today in the commercial market, isn't as great as it could be. And so we're really looking to come in and provide really great transparency in both ordering and delivery. One thing that gets thrown out internal to the company is that we want our ordering and delivery process to be about as great as ordering a Domino's pizza, where you really know exactly like when your pizza's being made, when it's being driven to your site, and when it's delivered. So similar to that, we want to be really open with if your task is going to be able to be achieved with our current platforms, at what time, when it's being collected, and when you can expect it delivered to your preferred platform.
Now, is your platform in obviously it's working with your potential, your future satellite constellation, but is it also standalone as well? Are you working with other satellite providers or offering a reseller solution ahead of your constellation?
Yeah, so right now we're mostly focused on providing data specifically from our platforms through our ordering and delivery process, but we are exploring other satellite imagery providers, both in providers who are more focused in the monitoring mission. We are focusing really heavily on the spatial resolution piece and aspect of it. So we're definitely looking into working with other providers, but right now we're laser focused on making sure that we can deliver the capability that we're promising.
No, that's great. So with launching in 2024, You said your full constellation is going to be how many?
So first launch actually just got pulled up to end of 2023.
2023,
but
okay.
Yeah, 24 satellites will be our full constellation a few years later, targeting around the 2027 timeframe.
Awesome. And what's that image revisit time going to look like for you?
Yeah, so our revisit with that number of satellites will be down to 3 to 4 times per day, depending on your specific location on the globe.
Okay. All right. And is there anything unique do you doing with your ground station segments? Do you have ground station segments, or are you using other platforms for that?
Yeah, one thing that's really great about starting a new space startup today is that there's a lot of different enablers out there. One that we're definitely leaning into is the fact that both AWS and Microsoft Azure have recently come out with their ground station segments where they're providing the ground antennas and the cloud platforms for imagery providers to downlink directly and then provide directly to their customers, as well as, legacy providers like KSAT. There's really not a need to go out and create a full ground station segment like you needed to back in the day. So we really view that as a big enabler for us.
Now, one of the bigger, we'll call it advantages to building satellites today is the rapid innovation process that has occurred, especially over the last 5, if not 10 years for building small sats, right? So, you build one series and you can rapidly on the next model input new technology as opposed to these 10 or 20 year cycles from traditional providers of putting satellites up in the air because they're so expensive. Do you have that type of a cadence? So you're planning on putting 10 centimeters up on the ground, but do you have this kind of rapid prototyping thought behind your product development?
Yeah, I think, new suppliers or new providers and platforms like Planet, SpaceX, people who have come into the industry and really proven that you can have those short iteration cycles. Me and one of my co-founders, Topher, our CEO, both come from Lockheed, where we're really familiar with, those super long development cycles where you're gold plating a lot of the capabilities and analysis so that your satellite is designed for 10 years but ends up lasting 20. And what we're coming and taking a lean towards with Albedo is definitely those shorter life cycles, both to reduce the cost so you can design for a 3 to 5 year life and reduce the cost of your components, but also increase the amount of iterations that you can deploy for subsequent platforms. And the CubeSat revolution has definitely also increased the amount of capability that you can fit into smaller form factors. So another big enabler for us is being able to pack in a lot of that capability in a little bit larger platform. So I wouldn't call our satellites a CubeSat by any means. We're more mid-sized sat, refrigerator-sized satellites, where launch costs have come down so much, and you can spend a lot less money launching higher capability platforms in order to get something like Albedo's going to collect, which is 10 centimeter imagery.
Now, something just kind of going back on the imagery side a little bit, going through your specs here, what I did find fascinating is you include the actual nadir specs of potential nadir specs of your imagery, which not a lot of commercial imagery providers do. Can you explain why you did that? And perhaps is that kind of a deficiency you've seen in providers as trying to define the quality of the imagery other than resolution?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really goes.
I'm sorry, I said nadir. I meant NIRS. I meant the NIRS quality.
Oh, NIRS. NIRS is very different than nadir.
It is. I got zoned in on a word, and I meant NIRS. So, and for those of you, those of our audience not familiar with the NIRS, NIRS is we'll call it a unique government quality standard to assess how good an image is based off of how well you can see certain types of objects on the image.
Yeah. Correct.
It stands for National Image Interoperability Rating Scale, by the way.
image interpretability rating scale.
Yeah. Can't even say that word, but
yeah. So, kind of like I said earlier, both Topher and I come from Lockheed Martin, where we both worked on classified systems. And one thing that's, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, is the imaging community really started from the government side of the house, where you had imagery experts looking at no kidding images and had to define scales that have to do with what can I actually see in this imagery in order to say whether it was of a certain quality. So in terms of NIRS for us, and image quality being of utmost importance, and 10 centimeters gives you a pretty good understanding of GSD. What NIRS brings in is also some other terms that your listeners might be familiar with, like signal to noise ratio, SNR, and modulation transfer function, MTF. So all that said, Albedo's really looking to define really high quality imagery. And so we put that near 7 rating on our imagery, which is a little bit higher than anything that's been available commercially today. I'm not sure any other provider has stated their NIRS rating, but definitely looking to up the scale, and you should look it up on Wikipedia to get a good understanding of where those different scales lie between 5, 6, and 7.
In a completely separate topic, I think on Project Geospatial, we're looking at trying to create a comparison chart between the resolutions so that people have a proper understanding behind the potential what either NIRS could provide or provide some type of commercial equivalent, so people understand what people can actually see on the different resolutions. So, I mean, you applying the NIRS scale is once again a very unique approach, and I kudos to you for actually doing it, because I haven't really seen any commercial provider do it openly. So, no, awesome. On the pricing side of things, I found that you're already releasing what your potential pricing could look like a couple of years down the road. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And perhaps this is incredible pricing. I'll give you a rough idea. Between Airbus and I believe Maxar, I think they roughly ran for an archive image between $200 to $500 per 25 square kilometers. Doing the math here, you've exponentially decreased the pricing here. Can you talk about that a little bit more and why this is a game changer?
Yeah. So going back to our customers, one thing we heard loud and clear is that the price for high resolution imagery is just, it's really hard to be able to afford to buy anything, both on the tasking and archival side of things, as well as ordering just large swaths of area when really what you're interested in might be a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer square area with interesting things within the scene there. So we're really looking to enable both smaller tasking and archival imagery for our customers who are looking at those smaller use cases at a price point that's well within their budget, so they don't need to spend an entire year's worth of their imagery budget in order to work on one use case that they may have out of the thousands of use cases that they are trying to work for their customers. So it's really important to us to come in as a brand new high resolution imagery provider that's looking to enable our customers to do the high quality analytics for their specific business areas.
Well, especially as a lot of these use cases are nowadays starting to become more machine driven, and to train and label this, you need lots and lots of imagery data. And that's the stovepipe. It's not only the capabilities. It's not that any one of these analytics companies are going to release those images, but they need a lot of imagery data just to train off of before they create the algorithms to run off the incoming live or dynamic stuff, right? And ordering thousands of images is almost just unthinkable when when the price point is in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per image. So now you're bringing it into the single digit dollars. That's incredible. And it actually opens up to modern use cases beyond traditional ordering onesie twosie images, right?
Exactly. A lot of our applications that we're looking to enable are industries that have previously used aerial imagery around the 10 to 15 centimeter GSD level. That includes like mapping, autonomous driving, insurance companies who previously haven't had access to high enough resolutions or small enough areas in order to really make it a useful venture for them to look at satellite imagery. We're really looking to enable those new areas, as well as, like you mentioned, the computer vision based analytics, energy, agriculture, finance sectors, where they need to get reliable, up-to-date information as quickly as possible. And so also looking to enable those use cases in this commercial market that's grown so much over the past 5-10 years.
Absolutely. Your business model is not only about the resolution, but also how resellable and reusable your imagery is with your pricing point. And so that's one very unique aspect of what I'm looking at here. So with that said, how are you? How is it funding right now? How's that going for you? And my last question after that is, what's the next few months look like for your company? You know, what's how are you going to get from here to launch?
Yeah. So funding wise, it's going pretty well. We just finished up Y Combinator. We're one of a very few space companies who were going through that startup accelerator out of the Valley. Some of your listeners might be familiar with it. And that led us up to demo day, where we were able to, pitch this idea and our business plan to a bunch of investors. And we were able to actually raise about $10 million for our seed round. So definitely a sizable amount of money that well positions us for these next phases of development. So to kind of answer your what's next question, like I mentioned early on, we're down selecting our specific suppliers to kick off development to hit that 2023 launch timeframe. And then we're also customers are so important to us, and we've developed a lot of early relationships. My other co-founder, Winston, has probably reached out to many people within the industry, and we're going to continue to reach out to them to really refine and define both our ordering and tasking process and our delivery process, and just make sure that we're locked in rock solid on the satellite architecture, and we're hitting all the bands, the swath, and resolution that people care about, to make sure that what we're developing here is going to be most useful to all our customers, because they're just our number one thought right now. So we're also interested in locking in some early capacity for our first satellite. So as we're going through those customer relationships, we're going to be capacity limited with our first bird, but want to provide early access to those who are looking to have any early 10 centimeter imagery in the 2023 timeframe. So looking to develop and refine around those customers as well. So anyone who's interested in getting early access, definitely reach out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate AJ going over with us Albedo's new business venture. It's incredible to hear another satellite company coming online and still becoming a game changer. People say the space is saturated. I do not believe so at all. It's constantly innovating and building on top of each other, and there's so much potential going forward. And resolution aside, there's lots of innovation can be made on business models, infrastructure, all kinds of things. And you have definitely proven that there's plenty of space and plenty of innovation to be had with the satellite commercial imagery industry. So I appreciate you coming on with Project Geospatial, and look forward to hearing more about how your company is going to evolve here down the road. Any last minute words before we wrap up?
I think the last thing I'll say is one thing I didn't get to mention was early on when I was coming out of college, I was always hoping that there would be a new space startup, and there really wasn't a lot out there. But to your point, like, the industry is certainly not saturated. If anything, we've seen how exciting it's getting, and how more exciting it's going to be as we continue to generate more interest in the space industry. So really happy to be able to start this up with my other two co-founders, and happy to provide this capability to the high resolution capability to the industry. And thanks so much for having me, Adam.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, once again, I'm Adam Simmons here with AJ Lassiter with Albedo, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Thanks, everyone.